Good day. Efficient day. Like the guys. Good first down, second down. Very physical. Good day on running the ball. Good day on defense. Got some guys flying around. Caught the ball really well today. And like where we're going, like our attitude. But the kids were really focused and locked in, but not overly. I mean, not as far as emotional. I mean, very, very business-like. And I was very proud of that. So you don't get too much emotion in and wear yourself out during the week. Question?
Obviously this game has a lot of national exposure, and you haven't had a ton of those since Clemson week.
Been on TV every week.
Well, I just mean
national TV every week.
In terms of like the big like top 10 matchup type of games. I don't mean like it hasn't been on TV, but obviously the respect card has been something we've talked about or written about. Is that something you want to play up or don't want to play up in the locker room?
I mean, it's part of it. I mean, if you play well, you get respect. If you don't play well, you don't get respect. I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, we have to play the game and play it well, and you don't play it up. I mean, those kids know that. They know when they go into a battle with Florida and we're both in the top 10 that you have to do that. I mean, I don't think it's something you really have to push, but it's things we have talked about as far as what we want to do because of where we want our program to go, and that's about it.
I didn't ask you about it yesterday, but what are your thoughts now that Maryland's officially out of the ACC?
I didn't even think. It caught me so off guard. I didn't know. I mean, I actually haven't had time, and I've been thinking about Florida. So maybe after the season, I'll get my bearings back on it. It's interesting, though. It really is.
You beat them too bad, apparently.
Yeah, that's a shock. Because I mean, they're one of the original members, if I'm not mistaken.
Jimbo, where's your defense right now compared to what you thought you'd get
in the locker room
on day one? Good one.
1, 2, 3.
Right?
Couple of them still out here.
Laverty is cold at one time at a Jets game at the Jaguars. I asked him, I said, where do you go from here? And he said, home to New York. Where are they as far as performance-wise from day one of August?
I think we've gotten better. I think we've gotten better completely. The defense has gotten improved. I think we've gotten better at more pressures, different looks in the secondary, mixing more stunts and twists, and being more diverse after probably the first half of the season. Doing a much better job there. And I think we've gotten better as a team in general in all three phases. But I think they've done a better job of being more diverse, creating more blitzes, more situations, and doing different things.
Brandon said yesterday that among other things, one door closes, another one opens, and he said all his injury meant is that Tank was able to make more contributions and did do other things to account for that and everything. So, did you find out a little bit more about your defense when you had that little adversity in losing Brandon?
Well, I think in general, you had about the offense too with Chris Thompson. I mean, you lose guys of that magnitude and you lose a Greg Reed before the season. I've said that before. I think that's why I'm encouraged about where we're going, because a year ago, guys of that magnitude, we could not sustain those hits. And that's why I said we were a team. We weren't old enough and mature enough to handle those. And as you become a program, you can usually take those hits. Now, and those are guys, I mean, those are big time guys. I mean, and still be able to perform at a level in which we performed. But I'm very proud of the way they've responded to that. And Tanks really took advantage of his opportunity.
Speaking of Brandon, just he told us that he talked to you yesterday. How did that conversation go?
Brandon and I were very close. We had a great relationship. I recruited him. We were very close, very close. He's got a phenomenal family. His mom has a terrific family and everybody. And we had a heart-to-heart about what was best. And like I said, I'm all for him when it's right. And I hated it. He got hurt, and like he said, he had no regrets, and he understood. And he was glad he came back. He's going to have a degree and do the things. It's eventually still, I don't think it'll hurt him in the draft. And, after it was all done, we had a big hug. And I mean, he's one of my favorite guys. I mean, I loved him. He was a terrific guy, and he's a great person. He's a great ambassador for our school, and great representative in all ways. And going to be missed, that's for sure.
How much did you talk to him about the process? I mean, leading up to that moment, leading up to this week, did you talk to him?
We had briefly, not as much, because he had stayed, because he was getting his healing and staying away, and we talked. I text him here and there and just check on him and call him every now and then, just because when Brandon was a player, he was low maintenance. That would be the word. He's not a high maintenance guy. He didn't need you to go pat him on the back. He didn't need you to go tell him things. Sometimes he'd do it and he'd say, okay. I mean, you try to pump him, I say, okay. I mean, he wasn't one of those guys, but we tried to stay in touch because I just didn't want him to mentally get drifted away. And I did a lot of checking, and guys that had that injury and guys that I've coached that had that injury came back and been very successful, and tried to give him all that information so he could keep a good positive outlook, and he has.
Given what happened with him coming back and then getting injured, will that impact maybe your advice to some players making that decision this year?
No, because advice is based on where you think they are at the present time. I mean, if those guys are top guys, I mean, that's the advice. But if they're not, I mean, you can't dwell on injury. I mean, what if you walk across the street? I mean, playing football, I mean, it happens. It could happen in camp form. It could happen anywhere. And you can't think that way as a player. You have to, what's best for me in the long run, where would I go in the draft? If I stayed, could I project to here? Could I do that? I mean, I think you got to take the information you have and make the best possible. It's just like calling plays or calling defenses. If the defense times they've scored touchdowns on defense, they say, Mark, would you make another call? Yeah. On offense, if you knew the result of the play, I mean, you can't. You got to take the information you have at the present time and try to do the best you can with it.
Jimbo, how much of your wide receivers taken on Lawrence's personality? Is not only was he a big time player, but he had a physical way of going at the block and the things like that. And
which ones?
Yeah.
No, they've taken on his personality in that they're becoming consistent players. They're doing whatever they have to do to be good players. That's what Lawrence did. I mean, people forget Lawrence never started. He was a senior. Do you realize that? Never started until he was a senior.
Yeah.
I mean,
he was a
one year, yeah, but they just rotated. I mean, one year he had 18 catches but had 9 touchdowns. But was a terrific blocker. I mean, and was so unselfish. And I think that's what they've taken from him. That to come to practice, do whatever they do, and then when he had his chance to be great, he was one of the greatest ones ever here. If not, I mean, I don't know if he's the greatest ever, but he's in that conversation. I mean, I don't know him all, but I mean, he was the epitome of a team player. Toughness, consistency, made plays, and I think a lot of our guys are learning to be that. The Rodneys of the world. If they don't get balls, they're not complaining. They're going and blocking and doing whatever they get to do. And I think they've all kind of taken that personality, whatever they have to do to be successful.
As far as Florida's offense is concerned,
I'm sorry?
preparing for Florida's offense, is it about slowing down their running game first?
Oh, I think, and I don't care what offense it is, you got to be able to make them one-dimensional, and you got to stop them. And their quarterback runs, they do a great job with Driscoll and the things they got to do. And Gillisley's at 964 yards, I believe it is, on the break of a 1,000-yard season. So it definitely is that, and then we got to play the pass, but they can do both.
With Brandon, it seems like he's at peace with the way things have played out, and his decision. And it seems like a lot of guys who make that decision maybe don't get that feeling. You
know why? Because he knows in his heart he made it for the right reason. Because when you make decisions, when you make them for the right reason, with all the information you have and the things you have, and you do it for the right reason, you are doing things for the right reasons. You can be at peace with those things, and you understand. You take that's part of the game, and that's part of things that happen. And he's very content. Like he said, I got a great degree. I'm still part of the team. I'm part of I'm still part of this team, which is the first team to win 10 games in 9 years. I'm part of a second team that's got to go play for the championship. We talked about that we're got a chance to really achieve some great things and possibly be a top 4, 5, 6, whatever team. He has no regrets about being part of that, and because he's not selfish. Brandon's never been a selfish player, and when you're not selfish, you don't think that way.
When you say, when you're a top guy, that your advice, I assume the end of that sentence was your advice is if you're a top guy, that going to the NFL is a reasonable decision if that's something that you want to do. Where do you draw that line? Well,
it's each guys, and also, like for instance, and it depends on each player. How much room does he have to grow and get better? Mm-hmm. For instance, Josh Reed, I'll give you an example. Josh Reed was a receiver for us at LSU. Was the 3rd pick of the 2nd round where he went. He won the Blitnikoff, caught 108 balls. The year before he caught 6. He was a leading receiver in SEC history in 2 years for us. Caught 108, had 1,900 yards, averaged 1,800 yards a catch, 18 and a half yards a catch, okay? Had another year left. And they say, you're probably going to be late first, early second there. But he was a 5'11", 205-pound guy that ran 4.55 to 4.6. He wasn't going to go to 4.4, 4.3. So his speed, he was never going to go in that top 15 picks. No matter how productive he was, to get in that elite group of guys, you have to have a certain athleticism and size, speed. But as a football player, man, he was as good as I ever coached at receiver. I mean, ever. But he wasn't going to go up any higher. So we suggest, there's no sense to come back because I don't think your stock is going to go up enough to make that much difference in value. Now, if there's a guy who's growing, athletic, he can go from 1st to 2nd, 2nd to 3rd. 2nd to 1st, 3rd to 2nd, or 3rd to 1st. And he's got a young body, can still mature, can still grow, can be faster. Those kind of things. It all depends on the person. Where you're. But once you get in that top 10, 15 picks and 20 picks, somewhere in that range. It's hard to tell a guy not to go do that. Because really, how much better are you going to get?
Right. And if you tell them that, they're probably less.
But they got to make their own. I don't tell them anything.
Right.
I just give an opinion and I let them go. And I don't. But I try to. But the key is, it's like anything. It's like recruiting. At the end, there's more misinformation out there than there is information because everybody's slinging, trying to get something done. The key for those kids is every agent, whoever's trying to get in your ear, understand who that tight circle is that really cares for you, and that the information I'm getting is truly the right information, because that's the only way you can make a great decision. And I think that's the key, is making sure they get the proper information and the right information.